One of the text messages mentions three people: Todd Gilbert, the former Republican Speaker of the House; Hitler, a man who's responsible for killing 6 million Jews; and then a Cambodian dictator who's also responsible for the death of over 1 million people. You said in that scenario, quote, 2 bullets, Gilbert would get 2 bullets to the head. What were you thinking?
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. We've devoted a lot of time this year focusing on the federal government, the never-ending battle between President Trump and the Republicans versus the Democrats in the swamp. And rightly so. The fallout from 2024 lasted for many months, and there's been so many developments in the news, especially when it comes to political buffoonery, that it's really taken up most of the oxygen in the room. And sure, we've talked about the race happening in the People's Republic of New York City between Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa. But let's be honest, that's because of my own personal vendetta against Cuomo. It's time to start focusing on those other elections that are pivotal going on across the nation. One of those races is occurring in Virginia right now. And because we're in the beginning of October, it's time for that October surprise across a lot of these races. In the race for Attorney General, the gentleman you see on the screen right now, his name is Jay Jones. He's the Democrat running to be the top attorney for Virginia. Well, recently, National Review uncovered some very sick texts involving Jay Jones's communications with some Republican colleagues. And in the era after the murder and assassination of Charlie Kirk, the timing of this could not be any worse, because these sick texts involve discussions of fantasies concerning political violence. We're going to get into all of the reporting of this and what Jones himself had to say about these texts. But before we get to just unraveling this October surprise, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. And if you like what you see and hear in this or any other video on the channel, smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really good stuff, because all that's going to help us continue to grow thanks to the YouTube algorithm.
What?
Feed me!
Okay.
As always, gang, thanks so much for all that you do to help grow the channel across all social media platforms, really. We had a big weekend just with our short videos alone because of you guys. So thanks so much for doing what you're doing. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, maybe you're here for the first time, I'm glad you're here, and I hope that this video earns a subscription as we discuss these sick text messages from a candidate for Attorney General in Virginia that I'm going to let the local reporting outline for us. This is from WRIC, the ABC affiliate in Virginia. Check this story out.
The National Review reporting today on text messages Jones, then a former delegate, sent to Republican delegate Kerry Coyner in 2022. In them, Jones says Republican Todd Gilbert, quote, gets 2 bullets in the head. According to the National Review, around 8 a.m. on the morning of August 8th, 2022, Jones texted Coyner, quote, if those guys die before me, referring to Republican lawmakers, quote, I'll go to their funerals to piss on their graves.
Don't you think that was a little harsh?
Yikes. So I think it's safe to say that Jones doesn't like certain Republicans, maybe all Republicans for all I know. So these text messages come in the context of the passing of a legislator, a former state legislator named Joe Johnson Jr. He was considered by most people to be a moderate Democrat with a long tenure in Virginia politics, according to National Review. So when Republican legislators like the House Speaker Todd Gilbert, who you heard mentioned briefly there, began to make public statements honoring Johnson's memory, and when you really think about that, that shouldn't be such a shocking thing. Reaching across the aisle to honor a colleague that passed away, well, for Jones, that ended up being a bridge too far. he started sharing his feelings with a Republican colleague, House Delegate Carrie Coiner, in a series of text messages that the reporter here for WRIC, Tyler Englander, is going to be outlining for us. And you saw he just started to do that, talking about peeing on someone's grave if they pass before him. Okay, uncouth. Really makes you look bad, especially if you want to be the top attorney. Doesn't exactly show that you respect your colleagues, let alone the dignity of the office that you're about to hold. Dare I say, borderline unethical if you are an attorney. Might want to report you to the bar on that. But as you'll see in this report, this goes way beyond the pale.
Jones' messages then turned to then Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert. Jones said, quote, Gilbert, Hitler, and Paul Pot. Gilbert deserves 2 bullets to the head. Jones went on to say, spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time.
He's batshit crazy.
And that's where it's gone way too far. You can certainly imagine in this post-assassination of Charlie Kirk era that any discussion of political violence is completely a third rail nowadays. And rightly so. It should have always been a third rail. Well, not only in politics, but how about just in our everyday discourse? If you see a statement like this from someone who is maybe, I don't know, online applying for a job, is already an employee of somebody, we're seeing these people getting fired for saying things like this. This is someone who wants to be the top law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia, and he's talking about putting 2 in the head to people he doesn't like, specifically a Republican and the former House Speaker. Absolutely crazy.
Coiner responded, quote, Jay, please stop.
Oh, yeah, you think? I think that was the least of the advice that Delegate Coiner should have been saying. And frankly, why did it take up until now in an election cycle for Coiner to produce these texts? This conversation happened in August of 2022. It's been over 3 years. Why was it okay to say that back then? But now they must be uncovered and revealed as an October surprise. I have to question Coiner's motives here as well when it comes to this. Why wasn't this nipped in the bud immediately? Now, it could be that they were colleagues and they were friends, and you're giving a friend a friendly advice and maybe giving him a pass. But now you got partisan politics involved. You got election politics involved, and it's all coming out. I don't know if that's a great look for Coiner or the Republicans in Virginia, but you know what? Such is the nature of October surprises. It is what it is. This was uncovered, and now Jones and the electorate have to deal with it.
To that, Jones responded, LOL, okay, okay. Meanwhile, the National Review reports that after the texts, Jones called Coiner and said, quote, he wished Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views as they come to gun violence.
What the fuck did you just say?
Holy crap. Okay, so maybe in a bygone era, aka a couple of years ago, you could have tolerated a politician having divisive comments about a colleague, even borderline comments, right? But to wish the unaliving of children, that's downright demonic. That is evil on a very high level. I think you'll agree with me on that. What kind of reasonable person first of all, what kind of reasonable person says that? I'm getting flustered because I'm just imagining somebody saying that about a member of my family, let alone a minor. But you have to ask, what kind of person says that? And then what kind of person doesn't tell Gilbert or his wife what was said back in 2022? I don't get that at all. This whole thing is scummy all around, but Coiner isn't the one running for higher office. We got Jones looking to be, again, the Attorney General, the top law enforcement officer in the state, to run the law department, to maybe go after political rivals. It's certainly not heard of in this day and age, right? And these are the views he harbors towards members of the opposition party in his own state. This is absolutely disqualifying, in my opinion. How can this person run for this office and continue to run for this office? Completely ridiculous.
Today, Coiner told 8 News the messages are authentic and said, quote, "On August 8th, 2022, I had a text conversation with Jay Jones. What he says was not just disturbing, but disqualifying for anyone who wants to seek public office. Jay Jones wished violence on the children of a colleague and joked about shooting Todd Gilbert. It's disgusting and unbecoming of any public official." Meanwhile, in response to the National Review's story, Jones told 8 News today, quote, "Like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret, and I believe that violent rhetoric has no place in our politics."
That didn't sound like an apology so much, but I will say this for Tyler Englander. He pursued an interview with Jay Jones and was the first one to actually get an interview with him and confronted him over these texts that have since come out. And we're going to look at parts of that interview right now.
One of the text messages mentions 3 people: Todd Gilbert, the former Republican Speaker of the House; Hitler, a man who's responsible for killing 6 million Jews; and then a Cambodian dictator who's also responsible for the death of over 1 million people. You said in that scenario, quote, 2 bullets, Gilbert would get 2 bullets to the head. What were you thinking?
You know, Tyler, thank you for having me and for giving me the opportunity to apologize. And I sincerely and from the bottom of my heart want to express my remorse and my regret for what happened and what I said. That language has no place in our discourse, and I am so remorseful for what happened. I actually reached out to Speaker Gilbert this afternoon to apologize to him and to Jennifer and to their children, because I know that they are angry and furious, and they are well within all of their bounds to feel that way, because what I said was unacceptable, and I accept responsibility for that. And I want them to know, and I want the people of Virginia to know, that I am so deeply, deeply embarrassed, and that I understand the gravity of what I said, and I am so apologetic for it from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, so he's saying all the right words here, right? In fact, it sounds quite rehearsed to me, in my opinion at least. What do you guys think about all this? Let's make this the question of the day as we watch this interview. I want to know if you think that Jay Jones is truly expressing his sorrow, his regret, his remorse. These are words he's using a lot of. Or is this damage control for comments that can sink his campaign? Let's keep that in mind as we continue on here.
In this election, you're asking Virginians to vote for a man who compared his political opponents to mass murderers. Isn't that type of rhetoric disqualifying for someone who's seeking statewide office here in Virginia?
Well, the rhetoric has no place on our landscape, no place in our discourse, and again, for that, I am deeply, deeply sorry. I should have never done it. It's very embarrassing to me, and certainly I regret it.
The National Review's article, which came out today, says after those text messages were sent to Carrie Coiner, you picked up the phone and called her. You said, according to the article, I'm quoting, Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views. Did you say that?
Bottom line is that the language is unacceptable. And again, I deeply, deeply, deeply wish that it hadn't happened. I have spent the entire day really regretting all of it. I certainly wish that it hadn't happened. And I'm sick to my stomach when I read those words. And certainly they're objectionable, they're abhorrent, they have no place in Virginia, no place in this country's discourse. And so, again, I am so deeply, deeply sorry.
So I'm noticing from the last 2 questions here, Jay Jones hasn't answered what was asked. Englander asked, is this disqualifying? He avoided that and started talking about how sorry he was, how regretful he was, his remorse for it, and how this has no place. In fact, I'm keeping tabs on the variations on that theme. It's like 4 or 5 different times he said that thus far in these 3 questions.
What, are you repeating everything I'm saying?
What, are you repeating everything I'm saying?
Almost like I said earlier, that it's canned. It's a crisis management message, not a display of true regret. If it was a display of true regret, he would say, you know what? I'll leave that up to the voters. It could be disqualifying. Obviously, a politician wouldn't say that because they don't want to lose, right? But then when the question was about confirming what was said on the phone with Delegate Coiner, he sidestepped that too and just stuck to his theme, stuck to the script of this being that there's no place, it's regretful, it's remorseful, he's embarrassed, he's sorry. But he's not answering the question about whether he is owning the words that are attributed to him by his former colleague. He could have said, yes, I said that. I own those words and I apologize. But he didn't. He only did that really with the text because the texts are in writing. That's irrefutable. It's been published by National Review. But the phraseology and the statements made on the phone, he's not confirming. It's very interesting to watch. This is leading me to believe that this is really about crisis management than it is about truly being sorry for these views. And it leads me to believe that a question remains as to whether or not Jay Jones still privately holds this animus, this anger, this violence in his mind when it comes to Republicans.
A lot of politics is about trust. I can think of nothing more horrific than a mother having to hold her dying child. How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific, so callously?
Well, again, I am so deeply, deeply sorry for what I said, and I wish that it hadn't happened, and I would take it back if I could.
Oh, not this shit again!
And again, I know that Todd and Jennifer and their family are feeling all sorts of warranted feelings toward me, and that's why, again, why I reached out. And I want them to understand that I wish that I hadn't done it. I wish I hadn't said it.
Well, I don't believe you.
And no questions answered. That's the third one in a row. I don't think that this is true remorse here. I think this is damage control. And to use the first names of the Gilbert family, Todd and Jennifer, trying to make like he knows them, he's familiar with them, it's far too familiar for me. This is politics to him. This has nothing to do with mending fences with voters or with Todd Gilbert and his family. To me, this is damage control, and that's where the true buffoonery is. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Jay Jones reminds me of the irredeemable buffoons that I talk about in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons. That's available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. And by the way, folks, you see that QR code right above my head up here? You can use that to get to all the links associated with me and with Buffoon of the Week, including a link to buy the book.
This guy is a grifter.
So when we're talking about irredeemable buffoons, we're talking about the worst of the worst. We're not talking about the point and laugh and mock haha buffoons that we like to talk about here. We're talking about those who do things so heinous, so out of bounds, so beyond the pale that their buffoonery seems to make them almost radioactive, that associating with them sort of creates a guilt by association situation that infects others. For instance, the Democratic candidate for governor, Abigail Spanberger, she went on record saying that Jay Jones's texts and these comments disgusted her. Now, while Democrats in Virginia have basically said the same thing, that they're appalled and that they're flabbergasted, it's not like they've called for him to resign from his campaign or to withdraw from the race. And no endorsements have been pulled or anything. So it's one of those denials that's not really a true denial, much like how Jay Jones's apology, to me, is not really a true apology. The repetition of the same phrases, remorse, regret, no place in discourse, instead of answering questions earnestly, seems to me that Jones was coached how to get out of a crisis rather than to actually express true contrition here. We've seen this many other times when we've seen buffoons in crisis like this. They have a script, they stick to the script, they don't deviate from the script because people around them are worried that deviating from the script will lead to further miscues, further unforced errors, and ultimately losing an election. But shouldn't Jay Jones lose an election because of this? Think about what he was saying, comparing people to the worst dictators and mass murderers in history, fantasizing about a colleague and his family being unalived, and expressing this to a colleague in a jokey joke manner with an LOL comment, and then following up with a phone call.
Not a good look.
And the fact that he's still playing politics, the fact that he's still in the race, speaks volumes to me about whether or not that question of the day should be answered in the affirmative, whether he's playing politics or if he is actually sorry. He's not actually sorry. He's still playing politics and hoping that voters will overlook this, will vote for the laundry of the Democratic Party, and hopefully he will hold the office of the top law enforcement officer in the state and have an entire staff of lawyers at his beck and call.
He must really think we're stupid.
I'm hoping in 2025 with this electorate in this time, Jay Jones doesn't sniff dog catcher, let alone attorney general. But hey, those are my opinions on all this. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments your answer to the question of the day and anything else you want to talk about this video. And as always, like and share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. I'll be in those comments with you discussing this video, as well as all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.